name is Natalia Carter, and I'll be doing a speech today about human trafficking and human trafficking prevention. When I was at Big Lots in Fort Payne last summer, I noticed an older gentleman following me, and once I noticed this, I was a little bit worried about the situation and everything, but I continued to do my shopping like normal. Then I noticed that he was going down the same aisle as me and everything, which was a little bit weird since it wasn't typically male-oriented stuff, but still. And then as I was going to check out, I noticed he was still following me, and then he walked out the door. This made me slightly uncomfortable, and I got a gut feeling that something was wrong. So after I checked out, I alerted the cashier of what I was feeling, and she walked me out to my car. As I was walking out, we both noticed that he was standing outside waiting for me to come out of the store. So he ran off as soon as he noticed I was with someone else. But this really opened my eyes to the dangers that are out there in the world, and it made me feel more passionate about speaking about human trafficking prevention. And as a young woman in America, it's a priority of mine to make sure that myself and my friends are safe whenever we go out in public, just to make sure that there's not going to be anything like that happening again. And actually, according to the experts at the National Human Trafficking Hotline, over 10,000 cases of human trafficking was reported in 2020, and 79% of these victims are women, and 72% of these cases are related to sex trafficking. This means that 1 in 879 women in the United States are a victim of human trafficking each year. And human trafficking is a problem that continues to expand as an issue in the United States, and many individuals are unsure on how to identify human trafficking techniques and what really is human trafficking and how it might occur and what's the factors that go into it. Because it's not just kidnappings and sex trafficking like I experienced. There's a lot more that goes into it. And in the media, human trafficking is usually seen as a kidnapping or other dramatic scenarios, when many of these victims are actually lured in by their traffickers through various other things, such as romantic relationships. And in these relationships, victims will begin to trust their trafficker, and it will build a connection with them. So once they are exposed to this human trafficking, they aren't as worried about it. It's harder for them to leave. And in an article wrote by Chloe Weishaupt at Stop Modern Day Slavery, a victim was sharing her experience with human trafficking that began as a relationship. And as a direct quote from the victim, she stated, "Due to this constant back and forth and psychological manipulation, Kimberly became trapped in an abusive relationship and was trafficked for sex to over 200 men over the course of her trafficking." And this is an incredibly sad reality that many people face. A variety of individual experiences across the world daily. It is important that we know the techniques to prevent trafficking and how to identify to protect ourselves and others, even if it's not just kidnapping, but with our romantic relationships and everything like that. And many people do not realize that human trafficking can come in the form of relationships, job offers, or even just friendships. And many individuals come to the United States to look for a job, and they end up the victim of human trafficking because they're not citizens in the United States, so it's harder for them to get help. And many traffickers use this, knowing this, so they can get their victims without having any consequences. And Hannah Spruce outlines this key method of fraudulent job trafficking in her article, Methods of Human Trafficking. She explains how traffickers will post job listings, and then once an individual arrives, they will take their documents. After this, the individual will experience a horrific breaking-in process that I will not be covering here today. And the entire process is extremely manipulative and lucrative, as the individuals experience horrific things done to them and other victims to ensure that they will remain submissive to their captors. This method is very harsh, and it takes advantage of those who are just looking for jobs to try and better their lives. And many individuals come across fraudulent job listings every day, whether it be on Facebook, on any social medias, or even on actual job sites like Indeed. And it's very important to make sure that people who are looking for jobs nowadays, to make sure that it's a verified job listing and it's not something that may be fraudulent. And the idea of being trafficked from a job interview is very terrifying, and therefore it's important to understand how traffickers will find their victims and always be on the lookout. And then there's another instance of human trafficking that will occur, but this one is actually a lot more impactful towards younger children and orphaned children. And while many traffickers will hunt for adult victims through relationships or job listing, many traffickers will find child victims who are in vulnerable situations, like they are in orphanages or they're from a broken home, so they don't really have parents that will look over them and care for them like they need to have. And a lot of these victims are too naive to understand the impact of what their trafficker is doing to them, and it makes them be trapped in this cycle of trafficking and abuse. And in her article with the NY Post, Gabrielle Farnrogue discusses how many children are at risk of trafficking in New York City. And according to her, many sex trafficking victims are young children around the age of 12 who are just looking for validation and love that they do not experience at home. Many of these children are in orphanages and have experienced abuse their entire life. The internet just opens up these neglected children to the horrors of the world. Therefore, it is very important to monitor your children's and younger siblings' activity online, because it is extremely easy to hide behind a screen and pretend to be a trusted adult. And the idea of a child being at risk of trafficking is very devastating, and I hope that spreading awareness will help protect future children out there from meeting the same fate. We can identify human trafficking techniques to prevent ourselves and loved ones from being trafficked, as this is a rising problem in the United States, and it continues to rise with the age of social media. And even though trafficking comes in a variety of ways, make sure that you maintain personal safety in everything you do. Next time you go to Walmart or to a public place, scan your surroundings and search for any potential warning signs. Whenever I leave my job, I always make sure I have my keys in between my fingers, and I always check my car windows with my flashlight on my phone to make sure that there's no one in my car. Thank you, and this has been my speech.